Welcome to the Spellbound Survivor Stockwatch. I'm Jacob Armstrong, or Adorno, Jared Voorhees slash Denny, and we just saw our clairvoyance be realized because we did that. We clocked at least part of what they were going to be potentially doing this round. However, the target was not who we suspected it to be. Jared, talk to me about this round. This kind of shakes you up.
I mean, I feel like this round is truly like a continuation from last round, and really the app last round really shaped this round. And this is like this is a rare moment of it happening where it doesn't always happen sometimes where, everything might reset after each round, but this one really was the actions of last round affected this round, and people's last minute decisions previously made people more cagey this time. And people were trying to make the best strategic moves they could. And it'll just be fun to get into. But it's just a carryover of caginess and an alliance that we thought was strong, but then slowly crumbled due to their trust issues.
It kind of sucks because when we'll get into it in just a moment, where our boot Edward, I felt that he just kind of got caught in the crosshairs of like this war that's taking place right now. You know, Caleb and Ryu, I think, catching the most heat from that last move, but both of them having idols in their pocket, and Lily and Bryant bitter and scorn and wanting to take the game back for themselves, and kind of saw this round as a very pivotal round to seize control. And my biggest concern going into this tribal council was that at the time that we recorded the last Stockwatch, they weren't talking about Aaliyah and Mikey as the third and the fourth. They were talking about Edward and Jeremy as the third and the fourth. And like, while I do agree with their target in the hopes of evading potential idols being thrown out there, it didn't all go according to plan. There's still an idol that's still in the rotation that they'd rather not have. But there's some flexibility now. There's like a game that the I guess the new minority needs to play now of like, who do we end up playing this on? This is very decisive. We need to do this correctly. Um, Edward, we put as the number one contender of the last round. So good on Lily, Bryant, Aaliyah, and Mikey for executing this move and taking out this guy because it seemed like he could have made a run for it. I feel for him. A part of me is curious if Jeremy winning immunity screwed him over here. Because they were giving Jeremy lots of credit, or way more credit than he should have deserved for what happened last round. And so if Jeremy had not won, then Jeremy might have been the target over Edward. That's a possibility. He could have been screwed over by that. Screwed over by the fact that Caleb and Ryu both had well-known and well-documented idols, and they're playing the safe vote, if you will. They gave Caleb and Ryu enough, or at least Caleb, at least enough concern. This is actually the first time we actually see Caleb's paranoia both simultaneously be correct in his assessment. It's like, oh, something is off because there was something that was off. But Caleb usually always says this, and usually gets his way. But then this scenario, it's the first time his paranoia openly backfired on him because he played an idol that he didn't receive any votes this tribal council. So now he's super duper cooked. Um, I find it very tough to gauge how to rate Edward stock this round because I think that when we criticize them for being very indecisive and making up and choosing things last second, and this actually affected their votes. The four people who voted for J1 did not vote together. Granted, Caleb got zapped, so it would have been 4-3 at best, anyways. But they weren't even unified in the world that they could have even gotten their way. So that could have easily resulted in a tie. That could have they almost did so much brought so much ruin upon themselves just by not being decisive and making a decision and communicating better. It is actually pretty funny that we saw Lily and Brian's kind of an extension of Lily, um, an extension Aaliyah and Mikey kind of win the day when they're active and they're around. They're way better communicators. Um, and talk to me about how you feel about Edward, man. I'm sad he's gone.
I mean, Edward leaving, I think the logic behind Edward leaving makes sense. Um, you're worried that the idol play is going to happen, in which Caleb did, and it was a whole friends thing of they don't know that we know that he knows, and blah 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 blah. You know, that's essentially what happened. Kind of like the Sanam, but this is like Sanam 2.0 in only the sense of they knew that Caleb had the idol, but Caleb didn't know that they knew that he had the idol. And so they were at least trying to get rid of it. Like they were wanted to possibly do with Sanam's, but they wanted for hers for her to actually negate votes. Edward, I don't think did anything wrong this round. He was actually kind of decisive within the quickies, and again, the quickies are Caleb, Edward, Lily, and Ryu. Um, they were, like the Central Alliance again, and like the main ones talking. Um, so Edward was just he's almost like the Suri of like he got sn if you people overuse the definition, I feel like overuse the word sniped in this game, but I think he was actually sniped out of this game because they were worried about the double idol play, so they go, okay, they won't think that we would vote for Edward, so let's just take out Edward, who's a number for them, and hopefully both of them are free next time. So, but to circle back to Edward instead of just endlessly ranting, um, he didn't do anything wrong. Um, I don't know what he could have done better other than potentially just have an idol. Um, so yeah, he's so hard to rate for that reason. Like he voted for Mikey, which we've talked about, but he just didn't do anything wrong. So I agree with you. He's hard to rate this round because like you don't want to rate him low because he didn't do horrible gameplay, but also this round didn't have the best gameplay, but only because we gave them so much time off to stew.
It's kind of like you can take having more days in a round as an advantage or disadvantage for a number of reasons. It's more days for you to solidify a plan, kind of like do damage control. Like if we gave them a shorter period of time, there's a chance that like well in this scenario, like Lily does stew in the blind side of J1 a little bit over the course of the 4 days, and definitely is decisive in the fact that she's not just going to like lay down and die and like let them dictate and control her game. I feel like and so a shorter period of time I don't think would have helped at all, at least with her forgiving them because it was like, oh, it's less days that they could have done damage control. It's kind of like if I'm just immediately blindsided, my intrusive thoughts come out. My immediate instinct is to fuck over the people who fucked me over. It's like to get a lick back, if you will. But it's also like you mentioned, like more time for them to kind of like unravel. Like to try to compare notes, something to go wrong. 4 whole days passed from J1's boot to Edward's boot right here that could have easily have I mean, obviously, dramatically changed the trajectory of the game because, and I'll give Lily a lot of credit because I was worried that if she went forward with making that Edward, Jeremy, Bryant, Lily contingent, that they would be setting themselves up to be like to lose again, like essentially lose another number. Potentially, one of those two end up going home, and not to say that they're not completely like safe moving forward. I do think that this final 7 rounds is going to be very interesting to see how people are going to be moving. But Edward here, um, both caught less heat than Caleb and Ryu did, but like he was the one that got sent home. Like he like even just like the round like the J1 boo, I think he was the only one that actually it kind of helped him that J1 got sent home and for like what it ended up doing. And it kind of like lit the fuse to this a Lily Caleb war. Both of these people being two that trust and like Edward a lot, but both are people who, for one reason or another, can be perceived as two of the biggest jury threats on the table. And so the less involved he is, and potentially getting ousting those two people out of the game, especially Lily, who basically says at tribal how like she's going to vote for not vote for. I feel like we'll be an emotional juror. Like maybe wouldn't vote for someone like who screwed her over. Like Edward can reap some benefits from that. I'm gonna give honestly, I think that four is the best I can do for I could give to Edward here. Um, Edward, I think, is now the front runner for Rob Juror because while I do think Sergio,
Yeah.
Kevin, and to a lesser extent, so Jay wants a tentative runner up, but
Hmm.
still so much can happen at this point. I think Edward did the least wrong. I think Edward did have a solid backing behind him, had a group of people, even the people who executed this move, said they trusted Edward more and are pretty much only doing this because they knew of Caleb and Ryu's idols. And that Bryant's that for them to seize the day, they needed Bryant's zap gun, which considering that they didn't vote together, they didn't actually need this. They could have held on to the zap gun potentially. Although actually I don't remember the expiration date. But point being, I gave Edward a four.
I think that based off of the jury, you are correct so far. Of he's Edward's the clear front runner for Roger. Um, but there isn't much competition for it if you just look at it overall. Of Sergio and Kevin, we kind of saw coming. They just didn't really see it until it was too late. Jay is like we don't have that third. We don't have a podium yet for Rob Jers. We only have a top two so far. Um, but I just don't like, I understand that Edward needs to be docked a little because he was voted out, but it's almost like the Morgan round all over again, where Morgan didn't do anything wrong. And so I almost have to evaluate it that way. Um, I mean, everyone was sketchy this today, really. But Edward was his normal self. Um, I mean, he was like the logical one here. Um, I'm just trying to think what I want to rate him. I'm gonna do higher than a four, but I'm thinking like how high do I go? Um, he shouldn't get any backlash for voting out Jay. That was the right move, and he got out on Idol. I'm going to give him. I'll give him a five because of docking him for getting voted out and because of the potentially bad move last time of leaving Lily out of the vote. I think the leaving her out was the reason that he left. So that even though it overall wasn't a bad move getting Jay out, that decision that they made was the ripple effect to getting Edward out. So we had to dock him for that.
Yeah, Edward is. I really started to see like a winning path for him start to form. Bryant's advantage here, like it's almost like we've been building up the whole season of like when is he going to do this? When is he going to take a shot? When is he going to use the zap gun? Because that has been very well kept under wraps. He has been very particular with who he told about the what's the word I'm looking for? The properties of this advantage. And the way that this round played out, I would not be shocked if, I mean, of course, like we saw how it's going to work. So now the Caleb, Jeremy, Ryu side of things, even if they do unify, they come together, they are now two votes instead of three votes, because Bryant will. presumably sap Caleb again. Um, but speaking of Caleb, my goodness, Caleb. Do I think he played the worst of the three who survived tonight, but wasn't in on the no? Yes and no, and there's a couple reasons why. Yes, in the fact that he did correctly read that something was off. The problem is because there's been this history of him thinking everything is off, everything seems weird, that it's like eventually at some point he was going to be correct, especially after a move like he made last round in which Jay won. He incorrectly plays the idol, doesn't even receive a single vote, and I feel like Ryu it's weird because like if Ryu played his idol and Caleb didn't, then I would understand because Ryu's idol was very obviously public. Ryu, and I think that that act of you playing a disadvantage on somebody would how do I put this? Like would is like a is like a bait. Like you don't play you rarely ever aside from like Jason from Edge of no from Island of the Idols. You don't play a disadvantage of someone you intend to vote off because that might alert them or may behoove them to play something to protect themselves. I love you just looking at just like who the fuck is Jason? This is like
Well, I don't remember Island of the Idols.
that's
I've only
fair,
watched it the one time when it was live, so
real. I'll pull them up. Point being like I think Elaine played something, and it was played on Jason, and they ended up voting off Jason 4-3. He was friends with Nora.
that he does look familiar.
I mean, obviously, it was like a pre-jury boot. Like this wasn't like a
Oh,
very like noteworthy. Like I mean, he didn't make it that far. Point being, I would have understand that in this situation. I feel like there were obviously, like if Caleb ended up catching votes, obviously, great play. He voted correct. He played his out correctly. Unfortunately, he loses Edward, a very valuable ally in his corner. He loses the battle of Aaliyah's loyalty to Bryant and Lily, at least for this round. I do think that there is at least room for that relationship to be repaired. It seemed as though initially Aaliyah was perfectly fine with J1 going home. She was, I mean, the alternative being Mikey. I mean, like J1 going home was way better for Aaliyah than Mikey going home. And I mean, she was immune. She was still there. They couldn't have pulled a fast one on her, so it seemed like Aaliyah was pretty indifferent towards that. So I'm like, okay, that's at least like a plus side. Caleb has, all the people who participate in the J1 move and potentially Aaliyah. And that is not the case because Aaliyah does commit to the move and gets rid of Edward. Um, Caleb and the fact that like Aaliyah, it'd be one thing if Caleb was trying to pitch Mikey to Aaliyah, which he kind of was in a way, like kind of like weighing that as an option because it was very, they were both transparent the fact that Mikey's name was out there. But the fact that Aaliyah doesn't vote for Bryant's, and that obviously is a very clear telltale sign. I'm pretty sure that they called after. I wasn't able to, so like
Caleb did.
yeah, but it was very brief too. So I'm interested to see how what Caleb gathered from that call. I I mean, we kind of said a lot of it last round. I'm sorry for rambling. You say yourself about Caleb now.
It's Brian has been saying this for a while, but it's like, when is it like, is it no longer paranoia when the paranoia is like valid or like true? Because like, I don't think there was any way Caleb was leaving this round because they knew about the idol and they factored that into the decision to get rid of Edward. Um, but it's like, I'm going to be saying this for all three of them. The decisions from last round are haunting them. It's like we're on Ghost Island. Like, if we're going to keep naming seasons, um, they should be haunted by their decision to leave Lily out of the very last minute decision to get rid of Jay and not just send her a quick message saying, "Hey, we are voting out Jay." And what doesn't help Caleb is the fact that he's connected to Ryu, in which Ryu has then previously burned Lily, which was this was really the last straw. That move was the last straw between Lily and Ryu. So, which like has ricocheted back to Caleb being affected. So now he's in a weird position of I don't think Lily has I don't think really trusts him and already sees him as a threat. Ryu, I think, still trusts Caleb, but where does Caleb go from here? It's already confirmed that he can't vote next round unless he has an extra vote. So he's already in danger. He used his idol, so he doesn't have safety unless Ryu plays the idol for him, which Ryu has been saying that he'll play the idol on everyone. So who knows what he'll actually do if he'll actually play it because he only has two tribals left to do it, I believe. Um, so Caleb's in a really bad position right now, but Caleb can get out of it. I think that based on a chat I saw from Aaliyah that she still does want to go far with Caleb, um, which I don't think is the best play on her end if she does, but that's a number for Caleb, and he needs all the numbers he can get right now. Um, I think that he I mean, I can't. Everyone this round was playing like they took a break this round and needed just a break from the craziness that's been happening. Um, but he at least was open this round about wanting to vote Bryant. But then he went against, unless something happened after I left the call. Um, he went against saying that he was going to vote for Mikey. So I don't know if he actually told them last second that he was going to vote for Bryant. I don't know. I'm debating because unfortunately I feel like he deserves a low score this round for, his paranoia finally getting to him and then him being like in a bad position now. But I don't know how low to go. He has to be worse than Edward, in my opinion. Um, I think I'll go with a three, but I'm very open to I could I could increase it to be close to yours or I was even debating like a two.
I was also debating it too. I think that that move just didn't have any like we gave him a five still last round because he still
I don't know.
had all these connections. He still had the idol. He was still probably at least someone who wasn't going to go home this round, but I'd say he was immune from any repercussions. Lots of people got fives last round. The only two people I'm pretty sure didn't get a five in any capacity. Let's just ignore Edwards for just a moment. We're Aaliyah and Mikey, but everyone else averaged out to fives because like who can seize control from this point onward, the game is open. While it was decisively in Caleb's side of the ball court, so to speak. Caleb, I feel like didn't do himself any favors. I'm gonna give him a two. I think that Caleb is on borrowed time right now, and I think that's really his only. We'll get to how I think he could possibly get out of this. Um, but I feel like he's like now the door's open for them to just split the vote. So like even if it's
But
like
they can't split.
well, because Caleb zapped, so they could. But like Aaliyah
Um,
Bryant, Lily, Mikey, they could all split 2-2 against Jeremy and Ryu if Jeremy and Ryu even vote together. And they could seize the day and circumvent Ryu potentially playing the idol, whether it be on himself or somebody else. Um, It's possible. That does open the door for like if Caleb is successful in flipping one of them over, that could be a 3-2-1. Another crazy plurality vote that Caleb would have been able to pull off. That would be pretty rad. But right now, I'm nervous for him. But also, let's talk about Ryu. Let's talk about my man Ryu. Ballsy idol. I couldn't. If I was Ryu, I definitely couldn't. But I think that this is now further perpetuating the he's not going to be taken seriously in the event that he's able to make it to the end. While we do hear a bit at Tribal Council like, oh, everybody is a strong, capable player. Everyone's really good at the game. No one seems to be really like like ahead win equity wise. I do think, and I think thing I do mention, it's like if you come up with every possible combination of people at Final Tribal Council, um, like there's somebody who's probably drawing dead in all of those combinations, and I'm starting to believe it's Ryu. And not to say that I don't think he has anything to boast about in a jury vote. I do think that he has some semblance of a story and like things that he can claim and that he participated in. He was ballsy. He wasn't afraid to make big moves. He wasn't afraid to take risks in this game. A game that I think you see on like the main show and you see in lots of these orgs. People are playing safe. People are playing scared, and we do see some scared play at times, even on this season. So Ryu, if he leans into that part of his narrative, then maybe he can squeak out a win. But when he's misplaying and misreading multiple advantages in the times where like it's supposed to be his time to shine. The spotlight's on him. It's like him, it's like a talent show. Like he forgot the lyrics. He's like, for like a good like for way too long for it to be the performance to be salvageable. Um I'm gonna give him just for the fact he has an idol, I'm gonna make him just slightly, ever so slightly higher than Caleb, even if I think like his Warner prospects are worse than Caleb's are. Um, but yeah, you tell me how you feel about Ryu.
I mean, I really thought that he was going to play the idol. Like, he convinced me after sitting on this call that he was going to do it because he was just like so paranoid from like hearing nothing for the longest time. Um, so I really thought he was going to play it. I mean, credit to him for not playing it when he didn't need to. Like you, I would have been scared shitless. So, I mean, I probably would have played the idol rounds ago because I'm scared and paranoid. Um, but he voted for Brian, right? Did he vote? Hold on, actually, I can.
Yes,
I
he
have.
did. Yes, he did.
Okay, wait. Who were the my key votes? It was Jeremy and Edward. Okay. Um. So, and it's weird. Again, I maybe missed it on the call. It's interesting that Caleb couldn't have voted for Brian anyway. Um. Who? Oh, he was the lone Brian vote. I was getting it mixed up. Um. I don't know. He's in such a weird spot, like Caleb, but I think Caleb is potentially in a better spot than Ryu controversially because I think Aaliyah still wants to work with Caleb. Aaliyah still wants to work with Caleb, but Ryu also still wants to work with Caleb also. But who wants to actually work with Ryu is the question. Um, but I would also give him a three because I think him and Caleb are in very similar positions right now. Um, and also he has the idol, so it helps him be equal to Ryu, or sorry, equal to Caleb.
I'm nodding my head at something very different. I just read someone's fraud chat, and I'm like, this is where we're headed. All right. You'll see once you see it, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about.
The one who spams.
No, no, no. You'll well, I mean, that doesn't
I'm
narrow
caught
it
up on
down.
prod chats.
That's what I was about to say. I'll explain more when we get to that person. Um, but yeah, no. How do you rate
I
Ryu?
give him a three.
Real,
Also,
but
both Caleb and Ryu like are dropping. Like Ryu was a little bit higher than Caleb in the trust rankings right now.
mhm.
Um,
We got it right here.
it's,
It was
again, snaps to Aaliyah, a
right.
3.0.
Good shit. Good shit. It's like it's almost like when she tries, she does really good. It's crazy. It's crazy when she tries. still bothered by the self votes, but like it's so sad that we're at the Zoom and we're just like, oh yeah, she's awake. Like that should not be something we celebrate for any player being capable of doing. Good job for staying awake, for being conscious right now. Because if she doesn't vote, my goodness, what what shit could have ensued? Like, things could have went wrong. I say we talk about Jeremy next as the last
Agree.
person left, who was not involved in the plan, and maybe we could go from like least integral to this plan to most integral to this plan, from that point
Hmm.
onward. You, if you'd like to go first about Jeremy this round, which he's a fun story.
I mean, it's fun. It's only fun when he is like, I'm about to say, like, Jeremy didn't really do a lot this round. Like, he was pretty much just telling people, like, yeah, I haven't really heard anything. Like, he kind of pitched Caleb's name to Edward, and Edward is just like, what the fuck, bro? Like, what the fuck are you saying? Um, so I mean, Jeremy knew, like, had like a sense that something weird was going on, but luckily he had immunity, but also the immunity has put like a target on his back. But at the same time, with the challenges we have left, I don't think that they really have to worry about Jeremy and immunity. But we can see. You never know with some of the what we have coming up.
I mean, he does have two comp wins now. Like he does,
But the ones he won were like the submission ones.
yeah. Like he kept going at it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, that's fair.
But also it helps him that for this one, like half the cast just didn't do it. Like, Jesus Christ. Um, Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say there was a draft because like I was preparing some tribal questions where I was gonna start off with Jeremy, Lilly, and Bryant's and put emphasis on words. It's like, oh, like, you have to try to like they gotta think ahead in this game, like how like when like building these relationships point, to put in effort, like just like how do you balance, it's a challenging like whatever, fuck, like trying to run homes
That
like,
would have been
oh,
great.
you who didn't do the challenge, like
Hmm.
whatever. Um, yeah, no, sorry, continue on your thoughts.
But you're good. Um, yeah, he just like wasn't really involved this round whatsoever. But I also question why they didn't. Why I say why Caleb, Edward, Ryu didn't try to include Jeremy more in this vote because they voted together last round. I understand that Caleb was being weary of Lily leading up to like in the last like hour or so when they were on the call. But still, I feel like you should, if you have Edward who's, working well with Jeremy, why didn't you try to include Jeremy more? So, I mean, a lot of the people, I just don't know how much longer like Jeremy can last in the game, unfortunately. And it's sad also because like we haven't really seen him do this like chaotic shit that we were expecting from him. But I think he's in a rough path, just like Caleb and Ryu. So, God, I'm gonna give him a one for now, just because like it's a different one than previous ones, but it's mainly because like he just wasn't involved in this round. That's it. Like he won immunity, which actually was good for him because I think if he hadn't won immunity, I think that he would have been the easy target in the easy round that they all wanted, and maybe this chaos wouldn't have happened. So I think in that sense, maybe he could be a two, but I think that this is solely because he just wasn't involved, and you're looking at like the Edgic, he's like was like invisible this round. I can change it. Like I think the most I'd go to is like a two, but I just don't think he was involved, so that's the low score.
I was muted like a dumbass the whole time. Like he does have some funny moments, like the countdown leading up to tribal council, like him being so like unabashedly like completely out of the loop as to what was going on. It was kind of funny. I gave over the top too. But yeah, like from like the sake of like there's not really much to assess with what Jeremy has done. This only amplifies, it only like highlights his weakest attributes as a player. His social game has not been the greatest. Um, he was neither in on the know of who Like, obviously, like the main plan was like he wouldn't have been told that Edward was going to be going home because Jeremy, of course, would not have been happy with that. It may have alerted Edward or a Caleb or a Ryu. That they got to do something to protect Edward. Um, and it seems that, immediately after this fact, people are trying to say that, like, oh, Arlia specifically is like, oh, I did this to weaken Jeremy. There's still like this perception like Jeremy is this really big threat, which does actually like they really give me some pause for a moment because I felt that with his lack of social grace, that he would not fare well in a potential jury vote if he's somehow able to get there. I know that he has said that he's ideal final three, which now he's aware of the fact that it's a final three. Would probably be Mikey and Aaliyah. And if he could pitch that, I'm like, look, straight up. I am the easiest person to take to the end. You guys can both beat me in a jury vote. It gets me there. I will vote with you guys. He has at least that angle that's actually like genuine. Whether that will be received well, I'm not entirely sure. Because Aaliyah right now is saying that she wants to take Caleb and Mikey. So like Mikey, obviously that was a given, but Caleb, which is a choice. We'll see how that fares for her if she gets her way. Because of that fact. Um, I think Jeremy's probably the most likely to go home next round because I think that there's a chance Ryu plays the idol on Caleb because everyone is perceiving those two as a pair. And so to try to goad Caleb or Ryu to potentially play the idol, it would not be on Jeremy. Um, but Ryu has been ballsy as hell with these idols, so like maybe it won't work out or like pan out well for those four. For Blam, the new majority alliance. Blam with an exclamation point. Kablam, my favorite Nicktoon from the 90s. I will give him give him yeah, I mean he loses Edward. That's terrible. I think that he gets a one. He's like a double check if this is true, but because I never even finished it, he is the least trusted person on the board because it's Lily, Aaliyah, Edward, Mikey, and then Ryu at a 4, Caleb at 4.4, Bryant at 4.7, and then Jeremy with a not great 5.9. It's pretty
And his score will
sizable
probably go down.
because no Edward. Like if
Yeah,
we take out Edward putting Jeremy there, it's 6.7. Well, which to be fair, like it will change at least slightly because like he can't
less.
be eighth anymore. He has to be seventh now for some
Hmm.
people, or just sixth, or whatever. Which by the way, actually fix that. 5.7. Let's give him some credit, okay? I gave him an 8. I'm pretty sure a couple people tried to be cute and add like gaps between people just to send home how much they distrust them. But like numerically, it doesn't make sense. They're not eighth, they're seventh. There's only 7 people you have to put on a trust ranking. It pisses me off. It's not funny.
Oh, I love the gaps because
Yeah,
I'm that person
yeah, no,
also.
no,
Like,
it's not funny when you fool me, okay? Like when you ruin the numbers of it all, right? Let's find like you put number one, a bunch of enters. Two, three, four, five. It's bad when it's one and two is a gap. You get what I'm saying? Like, and
oh
then three's
yeah,
the second person in the try. That's not funny. The gaps are funny. The
I
numbering
agree.
things and putting my like left sock that I used last Sunday when I go to church that's number five. Uh, Jeremy's number six. I don't trust him. But now let's get on to Blam. Starting off with
Mikey.
someone, I was going to say Mike. I was going to say high key in backwards order of the acronym. So instead of doing BLAM, oh, my goodness, if we just, but instead we're going to go backwards. So MALB, because I feel like that is least integral to most integral to this group
That,
success.
that works.
And you can start with Mikey.
Mikey is similarly hard to rate because he had okay conversations today. But just like everyone, he was kind of MIA for a couple days. But everyone was. but he somehow got into the Blam Alliance that was created today, and these people feel like they were the outcasts on the tribe when, I mean, three out of the four of them, you could debate that's true. But then you have Lily, who has never been an underdog really, in this game. But I mean, Mikey, at least for this round, was in a very good position because of this last minute alliance, and they all decided to trust each other to take the shot at Edward, um, which was a good move by Mikey, to get rid of, um, because that was someone who could have taken a spot of his in the final three. Um, so I think that I'm like debating if I rate him like the same as Edward or like pretty much I'm debating like is he a four or a five? Just because like he didn't do a lot this round, but like this alliance was a good thing for him. And I don't know how long this alliance stays together, but it was a good move by the four of them, and they really talked things out in a non-circular way that the quickies did, where they literally just speak in circles and circles and circles. They actually talked they're like, okay, well, here's what we do in a logical sense, and here's an actual conclusion. So, and Mikey was a part of he was on call and actually helped in the logic. So, I'll give him a five for now, but I'm willing to change it after hearing what you have to say.
Mikey is a very interesting player. The thing that I was talking about earlier is something that Kevin said, where of course everyone voted for Kevin, and clearly, clearly people who are immediately going to go home after Kevin are people who vote off Kevin because everyone voted off Kevin. Um, so it wasn't going to benefit people as much as others who do. Like someone will win who voted for it's weird. So, but the fact that Mikey keeps catching votes still, it's kind of this could be spun in a way where again like we're talking about like this story that Mikey has is this underdog is this person who could have gotten sent home in the OG tribes and then somehow clawed his way that through many like he's a cockroach essentially like just I think almost everybody except for Aaliyah that's left in this game has wanted Mikey out at some point in this game like or has at least voted for him and so Mikey has had to adapt and has had to work to trust lots of different kinds of people. But because of the fact that he served as a smokescreen from both sides now, the the rec center side of things used him as a decoy and was going to go through with this plan, but steers away from it at the last second. And now that the Blam Alliance actively used, kind of took advantage of, the Mikey decoy to kind of like, yeah, 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 that's what we're gonna do. But actually, we're gonna vote off Edward. Fuck you, Ryu. Um, it's now like if someone mentions Mikey, alarm bells might start ringing in their heads. Like, okay, so it's not actually Mikey. Who is it then? Like now they had to do some like detective work. It's possible that some people might just say like, can we just all disagree, just get rid of Mikey? That's maybe he's still perceived as a goat in the long run, but he didn't get voted for most likely to get second, who's playing a second place game, even if we looking at the Stockwatch, he probably still averages the worst of everybody that's still left in the game. Mikey has now, of course, like Aaliyah solidly work with him. He's finally in the group. Like he has found himself in some alliances, but none that really stuck or like the alliance with Lily and Morgan didn't stick because Morgan got taken out. The Space Jam alliance, which technically all three of them are still here. I still want to mention that, like, because like that's something he does have, but like clearly that has not been important or pivotal at all. But now being part of Blam, there's still, and now with Bryant having used this advantage, there's now a chance that Mikey might finally be picked up as like somebody like they need to. use moving forward. And I kind of want to see how Mikey plays into that. I'm going to agree with your five. I think that Mikey does have now like a realizable way of getting there. I thought he was just going to be as much as respectful to Mikey as possible, fodder. Like I thought that at some point
Hmm.
that is just like everybody that's just the easy vote. Let's just get rid of Mikey. We don't got to stress. The only concern being like obviously dealing with Aaliyah after that fact. Um, which for all the hell we know, he could be seventh. Like he couldn't be the first person we talk about next Stockwatch. But yeah, I'm just go Mikey.
Also, I realized that we last tribal we lost the Gel Alliance, fan favorite Gel Alliance after they finally got reunited. Um, you mentioning Space Jam made me think of that. Um,
The fact that Space Jam has outlasted Gel, like that Gel is now dead. Like it was already a one-on-one basically with J1 gone. But wait, no, I'm scared because if J1 got ninth and Edward got eighth, that means Lily's gonna get seventh, and I'm gonna be so sad. Like
well, we're theorizing that she's gonna play her idol next round because she's probably not gonna be at tribal. And so she might be paranoid and just play it to be safe, which I wouldn't honestly blame her. Um, I was gonna go to that prod chat thing because I forgot who it was and I saw it again. This is what I was talking about with the this person who's perceived as the GOAT. You have to know when to take them out. And I see where this person is coming from because I've been in this dilemma myself. And I I understand why they got rid of this person when they did, but at least Mikey is being able to capitalize now on being in the game this long. Whereas I still think that the person who said that would have still been dead in the water and they could have just gone on back to back. So, yeah.
I think it's so interesting because I haven't seen other people express this, but there's times where there is someone who is a GOAT, but that status, like even just one moment, it just evaporates instantly. And by doing this and by heightening their win equity, someone then how now has to sit on that seat. And people are not privy to this information. We had last round, or at least last season, our first ever zero fault finalist. And I don't know how far back we have to go to look at people who would have gotten less respect from the jury than Richard did last season. So it's like Mikey could easily have had this perception that the rest of the people in the game have not caught up to. Oh, he's not a goat anymore. He's actually like has like a decent amount of win equity. And someone like a Ryu, someone like a Jeremy, someone like a Lee, like might have then plummeted because of Mikey's rise. So like it's like if he does make it to the end, I'm interested to see how receptive the jury is to, a Mikey pitch. Would be I could see it going either way. I think everyone else I'm kind of like more or less like I assuming they'll be receptive and they'll want to vote for this person or not want to vote for this person. Mikey's kind of like it's 50-50, like whether or not they just I won't be shocked if they just perceive him as a GOAT and someone who didn't do anything and just don't consider him to win. But also I could see it being the ultimate underdog. It's weird. Kevin's making me
Mikey would
think.
get a vote over Richard.
Yeah, he would. He definitely would. But I will go first on Aaliyah. It's almost like if she tries, if she's there, she could do shit, and she's there. She and I was worried, very worried at a point that for the sake of protecting Caleb's game, she would have either told Caleb about the plan, and tried to like kind of get like the best of both worlds, like she can succeed in solidifying this Blam alliance, but at the same time still placating and keeping Caleb's trust. So like both sides could still trust her and she could be protected long term. Problem with this, of course, that this would have been at the cost of losing Mikey, who, due to some of the past rounds of her inactivity, her win equity is probably not the greatest right now. I do think that this is a very important move for her to make, both for the sake of like her long-term prospects in the game, but also for the sake of like her trying to claim some win equity. She says immediately afterwards, like this is kind of like her MO in games. You know, she makes a move like this and is able to coerce these allies that she betrayed to trust her again. And you know, similarly to how last round or round nine, where Caleb and Ryu are thinking we need to finalize a final three with Aaliyah, that might be the case here. And Aaliyah might push for Jeremy to go over a Caleb, over a Ryu, and put her in the best position of anybody, you know, like of these. Because let's say, hypothetically, let's play this scenario out. Jeremy goes at seven because they want to avoid an idol situation. And they suspect Ryu might play his idol either on himself or Caleb. It's a game of tr duos at this point, which is very fun. Like I kind of want to see how this plays out, but due to Bryant and Lily's, like I feel like Aaliyah and Mikey would be the Nicole and Cliff, in that scenario where Mickey and Holly and Tommy and Christy are both fighting for their loyalty to reign over the other. Um, I feel like she has lots of things to work with right now. She has the Blam Alliance. Good. She has something solid. She's a part of this big move that she can't just give that she could actually claim some credit for. She has still Caleb and Ryu still in the game. She has Jeremy who wants to take her for long in the game and perceives her as one of the only people he could possibly beat in a jury vote. I think she has lots of she's on the up and up, so good for her. I'm gonna give her a between like a 6 and a 7. That's where I'm at right now, because I'm also trying to like project how high I'm going to put Lily and Bryant. I'm going to leave it tentative 6, so that there's room for this to go up. I don't know where I'm going to rank Lily yet. I know where I'm going to rank Bryant. Um, but you tell me how you feel about Lily.
Um, so Aaliyah does have an alliance chat with Caleb and Ryu, I believe called the Car Wash. And every time I see that chat, I think of Shark Tale. I think it's Shark Tale. And I have the song stuck in my head. So, but yeah, I don't know. That alliance is fun because I don't know how like real it is. Um, but this really is Aaliyah's MO of it's late enough in the game where it's finally like, oh, Aaliyah has woken up and she's here to play now. And people don't realize that they shouldn't underestimate her in at this point of the game. Because now that she has like her eyes open, she's gonna be really hard to stop now. And like it'll be interesting to see how far she can get in this game because it is like you said, it is duos. Um, and so I feel like people won't take the shot at Aaliyah, but they'd rather take the shot at her duo, Mikey. Um, so she's really not in a bad position. I think this was a really good move on her end. You know, it's the people, the outcasts of last vote band together to take a shot at someone who knew the last second plan. And these people didn't do it last second. They set this plan in motion hours ago. Like before Bryant had to go to rehearsal, before Mikey had to go to a second shift. That's how long they had to trust each other for nothing to change. And with this paranoid cast, I'm impressed. Um, but yeah, I still think it's like a sticky road ahead for her and it's gonna be hard. But Aaliyah can do it. She can win these immunities. Um, I was in the same range as you. Um, I think I'll go, oh God. I'll go a 6, but it's like a higher 6. It's it's like a 6.5 or higher.
I got kind of them in that boat too. I mean, literally, I was contemplating between 6 and 7. The middle where is 6.5, because it's like she has a really good position right now. I don't see why people would take her out, but also I'm a little bit defensive here because like we also said the same thing about Edward last round, where I feel like he reaped lots of benefits of that move. He wasn't catching as much blowback. But we saw, and the immediate thoughts are like, oh, okay, Edward's good. Fuck the other people who made this move, but like not entirely fuck Edward. Um, which might be a little bit different because Aaliyah, Brian, Lily, and Mikey aren't decked out with idols like the other side was. Like the people who voted for J1 last round. So it's like kind of forced Edward to be the target, whereas like there's still a world where like they won't vote off Aaliyah because oh they're trying to avoid an idol. Like it would have to be purposeful, and I don't feel like they have any reason to gun for Aaliyah specifically if they're trying to take a shot at this group. Um, but that I like to go over to Lillian. You can start off with that, and I'm trying to think preemptively about which Survivor season we're going to reference next. We've already referenced Island of the Idols. We've already mentioned Ghost Island. If there's a way we could get the rest of the 30s out of the way, that'd be amazing. How to cram them in between Lily and Bryant, I don't know. We'll try.
I mean, we had an idol nullifier mentioned by Caleb, so we're bringing in David versus Goliath. Um, I can't think of all advantages. Um, um, I mean, I think that this round for Lily was a round of vengeance, and it's sad that this had to happen to Edward, the person who I think she still trusted, the most out of that group. Um, where did she have Edward? She had Edward ranked fourth, which is, I believe, yeah, it highest member of the Quickies, because Blam took up the top three. So. And I don't blame her for this move whatsoever. I think that getting out Edward was probably a good thing on her end. It probably would have been better if she could have gotten the Caleb or Ryu out. But getting out Edward, I think, was probably a good consolation prize for her. Again, even though this was someone who trusted her, but Edward, there was no way that he was probably going to leave anytime soon. So it probably was good for her to get rid of him and be like, okay, I can finally get rid of allies. Um, I do like I think this move has officially put a target on her back, but at the same time, it's like if she talks to Caleb or Ryu, it's like y'all just did this to me, so you can't be that mad at me that I did it because we see what happened last time. Um, so I don't think she played it bad whatsoever. I mean, in that quickies call right before tribal, they all knew that the vibes were off. Um, so I'm curious to see what happens in this upcoming round if Lily and Bryant are perceived as more of a duo, um, moving forward. Because I mean, if we have the full picture, so we see them as a duo. Um, it's duos and Jeremy right now. So I think mm, I was gonna go an eight, then I was like debating a nine. I'm gonna go an eight for now, but it's a flexible eight.
Yeah, I know. It's actually very interesting, because with the fact that Edward got sent home last round, another big move was played. What we might end up with is an edge of extinction situation where, like, the person who makes the move the prior round gets targeted immediately the next round. It's like the biggest threat that which I don't think they perceive Edward as the biggest threat, so I don't think this is a perfect one-to-one comparison. I do think that in an ideal world, like you said, a Caleb or Ryu goes, but because of the idol, they again, great consolation prize. They got at least one of those idols out. Ryu's idol is still in play, so that might tamper with some things, but they, because of Brian's Zap gun, they have flexibility, they have room to maneuver. I do think that Lily has, like you said, like her target, I think, is up there. And she was doing good enough work leading up to today, where Caleb, Ryu, and Edward was still putting stock into that relationship with Lily, where, like, they weren't trusting Bryant, and they, at the tail end of the day, are starting to get some weird vibes, like something is gonna go awry. But up until that point, it seemed like they still, despite the fact that they blindsided Lily, were almost like expecting her to just like to not do something and try to get a lick back. It was very, Ben coded in HHH when he suspected that Chrissy would just like not be mad that they got rid of JP and played double agent and was aghast that Chrissy was gunning for him. I think that Lily will I mean, she should play her idol, I think, next round. I mean, it won't hurt. In ideal world, she doesn't have to, but I do think that her traveling might almost like force her. Like, I need to make sure I am back in this game. But also with how openly she's been speaking about like how much this game has been stressing her out, she might just not use it, and she might even just give the idol to Bryant because of how forthright they've been about giving each other stuff like back and forth. I do see a world where Lily might want to set up Bryant up for success and vice versa. I think both would do this for each other, and I think that this is probably the strongest duo, and who my vote for a duo of the season would be, despite how little time that they've spent together, because they're so lethal together. I feel like I think this is the best of both worlds. You have Lily's connections, you have Lily's ability to collect information, and then you have Bryant's strategy and foresight. And it's like if it's a Bryant versus Lily, if it was a final two, and Bryant and Lily somehow were the final two, I would personally, as a production member, it would be a toss up for me as to who I reward, Bryant or Lily, because they exemplify the outwit and outplay portions of the game respectively so well. I'm not going to give her a name. I do think that she has some splaining to do still, despite the fact that she like just did. I do think she has less splaining to do. Um, in the sense that, like, obviously, like you said, like they just did the same thing to her, and we saw how upset she was. Like if the fact that they didn't expect this sooner, um, is kind of crazy. I will give her, because I was waffling between a 7 and an 8. Instead of an 8 or a 9, because I'm reserving that higher number for the other player. I'm going to give her a 7. Just give the range. I think that she can definitely, she has some room to maneuver, but she didn't have the greatest relationships with Aaliyah or Mikey beforehand. I could see a world where she might be perceived as the biggest threat on the board, and Aaliyah and Mikey might take a shot at her earlier than making it to 4. That's a possibility. Um, and if she does play her idol at 7, I think that definitely can happen in 6, depending on if both Lily and Ryu's idols are flushed. It's just like, oh, you're dangerous. You got to get out of here.
I mean, I think just debating between Lily and Bryant, I think that if just from production POV, I think that if you look over their complete body of work for the entire game, I think that I would lean towards voting for Lily just because she's been like in control like the entire game, been in the dominant alliance, even though Bryant has been too, but just Bryant knew that he was at the bottom, whereas and he's even like been in danger. Lily hasn't been in danger yet in the game. Um, she's kind of like a Jeremy Collins in Cambodia, where he was never in danger. Did I pull the Wikipedia up to look at seasons? Definitely not. But at the same time, she started off maybe as a Michelle and being unsuspecting. Whereas Bryant could be maybe be like an Aubrey. I need to rewatch Millennials versus Gen X. Bryant played the legacy advantage, so just like game changer, but they didn't play it. Bryant didn't play it as well.
They were in both seasons, so it's like you killed two birds with one stone. Okay, actually, no, I'm not counting Blade for Gen X. But I will count Game Changers. Um, I do think that, Bryant can emerge as David from Millennials versus Gen X and kind of be like this person who, like, at first glance, like, isn't the most opposing. Um, but because of the fact that he plays the Zap gun, might be perceived as like the leader and kind of like in this alliance with. And I think this is actually a pretty apt comparison. Like they might liken Ali and Mikey to like a Hannah and like a Ken situation. Like these two people who are kind of just like followers, like kind of not really doing their own thing, or kind of just going through with the motions. And Bryant can either be well, either could be perceived as the David, or might even be perceived as the Adam, as somebody who was always trying to make something happen, someone who was always trying to make a move happen and like respect that gusto, or David being perceived as like the strategic leader and is the most like imposing threat strategically from that side. I do think that Bryant having this app gun, it was the catalyst for everything that took place here. And like I said, I think that Lily losing trust in Caleb, Ryu, and Edward was really good for Bryant because it built this group that was good for him, both from the sense of course, they might commit to making it all the way to Final Four, but also a group of people that he might have a good chance of beating. The only question is, will Bryant be undyingly loyal to Lily? Because I think the inverse, that's not even a debate. Of course, Lily's going to take Bryant to the end. If Lily could give Bryant the win over herself, I think Lily would do this. But she's openly talked about her being like this emotional like play, like this person who's very much like wants to play an honest and like with integrity. So shit, she might even be the Ken of this group, like with all the talks of honesty and integrity. Um, but Bryant's strategic mindset, I don't know if he can rationalize in his brain why taking Lily would be better than taking a Mikey, would be better than taking an Aaliyah, would be better than taking a Jeremy, or a better Ryu. Like I think that Lily is one of the biggest jury threats on the board, and if he doesn't go through with um, making that move and I am worried for him. But at the same
Respectfully
time,
too.
I don't think he is either. But I do think that if one of Lily or Bryant will make that move, I think it would be Bryant, because I think he's demonstrated, and why I would be a bit more conflicted is because I think while Lily's body of work has shown her to be in better positions than Bryant, to be much more trusted, to be in a powerful position, she's also on record not gotten her way more. Like she loses Issa due to Issa not being there and Edward being there. She loses Morgan in a position where she's almost like forced to by Ryu. She
Mhm.
doesn't want to get rid of Sanam, but she kind of has to concede and kind of goes through with that plan and gets rid of Sergio, which these people whom she put as one, two, three in her trust rankings blindside her a couple rounds down the road with the J1 boot. Whereas, like, with Bryant, I think that of course, he didn't want J1 to go home, but that's kind of all that he's not been included on and not wanted to happen. Um, I love seeing Bryant's adaptability. I love Bryant's thoughts on the game. Um, I think he might even be slowly emerging as the best player left on the board. Because I haven't, again, like you said, like we've mentioned earlier, I don't disagree with any of his strategic reasoning for doing things. Like I do agree with the moves that Bryant is trying to execute 10 times out of 10. And also is actually putting in enough work. Jeremy, we also have likened to having these great strategic reads, but not doing the work he needs to socially. Um, we've given lots of credit to Caleb for being really good and well insulated, but very critical of his move to take out J1 just last round. I'm going to give Bryant a 9, and I am scared and nervous for my life. That similarly because I will fight for Bryant to be number one in the contenders, but I'm scared. I almost don't want to do it for the sole purpose of not giving him this curse.
Um, Bryant, I mean, the game Bryant's playing is how I kind of expected him to play. Um, because he's like in a middle position of, him and Lily are a duo, and I don't know how much of a duo they're being perceived right now. I haven't been able to read all the chats or be on the call since we're doing this, so I don't know how much of a duo they're being perceived as. But him and Lily have the potential to be able to be swayed in multiple directions, and they can figure out what's best for them. Because this next round they could easily work, or they could go back with Caleb and Ryu for a round, get rid of Jeremy, and then flip again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Also for Lily, she still has the steal a vote or whatever the heck her bracelet does, um, which she can use at 6 is when it expires. So I kind of expect this upcoming round to use the idol and then the steal a vote in final 6 when it expires because she doesn't want to go back in the shop, which makes a lot of sense. Um, but no, Bryant's game really, like, this is what I expected from him, and I know that he can do. So I think they got really lucky that Caleb got rid of the shield and gave it to Ryu. And I don't remember why Caleb did it. I think he was just sending it to Ryu just in case. Um, and thankfully Ryu doesn't read. And like he tried to use the shield, but um so I think that just like in any Survivor game, Bryant got lucky with the shield moment. Because if Caleb still had the shield, it was 75% chance that it reflects back on Bryant. But you need that luck in Survivor. So I'm not docking him points for that at all, but it's just a fact. Um, Getting out Edward was good for his game. I still think he needs to do a little bit better in social connections. He has like a okay relationship with everyone, but it could improve. Um, but he's still in a great position to where I don't know when he leaves. Um, but the only issue is that like like he's not the best at challenges. Um, Even though he does like consistently well, like you can compare him to me during my hypnotic season. Like I did consistently, well in challenges, but I never won anything. Um,
Jared, thank you so much. I was trying to figure out how to do this. He's the Rodney of this cast from Worlds Apart. I was waiting. How the hell do I get Worlds Apart on here? It's like Rodney is like he is constantly. Well, to be fair, it was just Mike Holloway winning all the challenges, but
and
like,
his birthday was today.
okay, I'm trying to hold in the laughter. This is, it wasn't even intentional. Oh my gosh, my fucking birthday. Just like,
I forgot that till you mentioned Rodney because I
my
forgot he
God,
existed.
I forget where Rodney's is a long lost survivor figure. Yeah, but speaking of Rodney, since we're on the topic of talking about one of our favorite players from Survivor's past, um, I could see a world where Brian does get fourth. I could see a world where he's kind of
I will
he's the
die.
fallen angel. I that would be terrible because I'm pretty sure isn't that not what he got in DCP? That would be tragic. I think we talked about damn. Imagine Tommy getting last pre-juror again. We're not talking about damn. What if Bryant gets fourth again? Like we never talked about that, but like I could see him being kind of seen as somebody whom lots of people, while they might not have felt as close to him in game, can ultimately put aside the differences and respect his game. Because there's people who have made moves or will go on to make moves that might be distasteful to some people. But immediately afterwards, everybody, like, like, or at least Caleb and Ryu are like, damn, that was good. And like, no hard feelings at all for making that move. They thought it was really impressive. And Bryant obviously using the zap gun, he could be the person taking the most credit for this move because he enacted and used the advantage to do this. And another nuance that makes what he did impressive is that he's like, oh, it's almost like I knew that was going to happen. It's almost like I knew that you had that. And it's kind of like, but like he didn't know. Like he had no idea that he had that shield. It was like, oh, it's just improv for you. And if that might turn, a Caleb against a Ryu situation, that would be insane if he was able to pull that off. Just like that small little tidbit. I kind of want to see if he plays into that a little bit and just like, yeah, I knew about the shield. I knew that you gave it to that. That would be really impressive. But yeah, no, still feel confident about my nine. But I do want to verbally say I changed Lily's thing to an eight. Because I think Bryant and Lily are so close. But I think the difference is that I think this move. I think Lily has more room to work with after making this move. I think Bryant himself benefited more and needed to make this move and was able to pull out the necessary stops to make that happen. Because it like where Lily was at, she still had room. I didn't think it was as flexible. I think she needed to make this move as well. Um, because I think this opens a path for her potentially to make it to the end. I think her signing with the Caleb, Ryu, Edward, and forgiving them that side of things would get her close to the end, but maybe one or two immunity challenges away from potentially going on to win the game. Bryant here, this was do or die. He does not make this move, and I think his position improves much more. I think warrants a higher stock, but I think any rating between 7 and 9 are valid for all their own ratings.
Um, kind of had a thought and I lost it. Yeah, I'm just gonna be so curious to see how they maneuver moving forward. God, I had a thought involving brand and I really lost it. Um, so for this round, um, hmm, do I give him a nine? Do I give him an eight? Oh, thank God. Okay, sorry, football. Um, I needed the quarterback not to get a touchdown because, oh, wait, is he out? Okay, I'm getting distracted. Um, this was a good round by Bryant, and I also like the fact that, oh, my thought involved the zap gun. I like the fact that, he used the zap gun this round, and it's like Caleb already can't vote next round. So if by circumstance, I could see Ryu wanting to send the shield back to Caleb and, them not realizing that it already happened. And so then be like, ha, we got you. And then it's like, no, you still can't read or you still can't ask questions. Um,
Please don't happen. Please, Ryu. Please don't do that. Please don't try. I will appreciate him trying to circumvent this, trying to salvage this. So like, ha, I still have this. So use your vote. And then it's like he already played it. He played it last round. It's still in effect from last. Like he, whatever. I please don't have it happen, Ryu. Please don't.
I'm,
Please don't. It's gonna look terrible. Like even if good on him for trying to break the system, but no, and backfiring with another advantage. It would be his third time him playing something and it just does nothing.
he needs to learn to ask questions and read. Um, oh, also for Brian, I think that really anyone leaving this round would have been a net positive for his game. Um, more like Edward leaving is more of a net positive than probably a Mikey or Aaliyah leaving. Um, but everyone that you could put a group them together for how positive it is for his game. But I think Edward was one of the more positive ones for him. Um, um, what do I rate him? Is he a nine? Is he worthy of a nine? Personal bias is trying not to go in because I just want to rate him lower because it's Bryant's.
I mean, if you give him a seven and like have him average out with Lily, I think that's fair. Like I do
No, I
think that
mean it's really like an eight or a nine.
yeah, that's fair. Because but like I was actually contemplating putting him a little bit lower because I do think that there's not a world where Caleb Ree or Jeremy after that move go to Bryant to try to make something happen. I feel like those, not say those
Hmm.
relationships are like irreparable, but I feel like with just how much they've distrusted Bryant these past couple rounds, kind of like have had him put him in the back burner as like an afterthought, that Bryant is almost now kind of like locked in with Blam. You know, he wasn't in a position to where like he could really exercise any other options aside from these three. Um, and I'm giving him a nine because like I think this is good for his resume. It's good for his win equity. It's good for his perception. It's good that he solidified this group moving forward. It'll be good if he can maintain it. The problem is, I like I mentioned earlier, I think Ali and Mikey have some wiggle room to potentially
Aaliyah
switch up
does.
on him. But with Aaliyah comes Mikey. They are the ice climbers. You can't have one without the other. Like they're together. So I think that that might. I don't know. That you
I
could rate him however you.
I'll agree with the nine because I think the zap gun play, he used it correctly and successfully. Um, and he went into, I'm gonna call it a voting block for now. Because we'll just see what happens.
Or our trust cluster from like
Well, oh,
oh
voting
voting
block goes
block
back to
Cambodia.
Cambodia. I think we hit all the 30s.
I definitely we've hit all the 30s. I was about to try to get like winners at war, and it was like that's 40s. So that will be the next Stockwatch. It will be
Yeah.
every 40s season. So all the new era winners at war.
Have
Um,
fun getting Tawny to do that with you.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Um, let's go on to naming off the contenders for this round. I think we've had a pretty good shakeup. Of course, Edward's no longer here. I think this is the first we finally have to take Caleb out of contention. I know that we were contemplating, or at least I was, weighing like whether we should take Lily out of contention. But you you saved me from doing this. You stopped me from doing this. Like you presented lots of very valid points. I do think Lily is in contention. I think Bryant is. The question is, if anybody else joins them. I would like to have a third, but I don't know who that third is because if we do we eliminate, do we keep it down to just bland members? Or is there an argument? Maybe we put a gap, like most of these people do with their trust rankings, and have like, oh, these two are the top two, but like on the off chance they fumble the bag, this person might be able to make a run for it because something like Caleb has done so well. Like he still has a chance to get out of this.
I mean, I feel like it's a clear like Lily and Bryant top two.
Hmm.
The order is we could discuss it. I know we rated Bryant higher, but I think those two are clear top two.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think that if we're doing our normal process here, I think that really it's between Aaliyah and Caleb for the last spot. And I almost want to put Aaliyah in because this is like prime time for Aaliyah to come out.
Right,
But you never underestimate Caleb
right.
because he could get out of this.
Like he has still that strong relationship. Like that Leah Caleb is such an interesting one because the way that these last couple rounds have panned out, they have not agreed. They have not been on the same page. But like just it's so like how throughout the pre-jury, like they would both. they were almost like you connected to each other. Like that was probably the other contender for like duo of the season because like they were still
Hmm.
putting each other at number one. Like it was still like they'd clarify with us, like, oh no, let's get this fact straight. Aaliyah and Caleb are like, oh that person's my number one. This is my number one on this tribe when I'm separated from them. Um, and like they've because of these past couple rounds, they may have defeated like they've turned. How do I put this? That accusation of them being a duo is not there anymore because now it's Aaliyah and Mikey. Now it's Caleb and Ryu. No one's talking about Aaliyah and Caleb anymore. That might cause a wrinkle into their plans. Um, I would probably lean more towards Aaliyah just because I think that how does she go home next round? Like, and
Hmm.
why would she? Like, I think that'd be
That's true.
insane. Whereas I do see a world where Caleb does go home because now he does not have the idol. They just Lily
Agreed.
and Brian says, "Screw it, just take the shot. We need to get rid of Caleb now. He's dangerous," and might coerce Aaliyah into doing this and fully committing to working with Blam moving forward. As far as the order of who of Lily or Bryant is higher, um, this wouldn't be the first time if we do put Lily higher that we had not just done it strictly by like who got the highest in Stockwatch being the number one contender. Um, because we're trying to, of course, assess like in a vacuum how well people are doing, but it's primarily what happened this round that we're doing this. Bryant, like if we're looking at the whole body of work, it shouldn't even be a contest that Lily should be higher by Bryant, that higher than Bryant. But just looking at this one, how much his position has improved. Lily's didn't improve by that much because she's always been good. She's always been consistently
Hmm.
doing well. There's not much room for her to improve. There's lots of room for her to go down. But whereas Bryant, it was like his position was very tenuous. He was kind of like going to be like a mid-jury boot, but now actually has some prospects to be like a end game threat. So it's like his rise is much more impressive than Lily's, but there was not as much room for Lily to rise as there was for Brian. So it's like
I
I
still
could
feel
see
like
where.
I just also still feel though that it's hard. I still see Lily somehow surviving longer than Bryant because like I understand like this was a big move by her and like it's being recognized as Lily was a part of this already. But I still feel like it's hard to get rid of Lily versus getting rid of Bryant, even though they have the Blam Alliance. Because like Lily would want to keep Bryant, but I don't know, I still see a world in which he does, maybe get fourth. I don't know if like they're in I think if they're in a final four, I think they would maybe go to fire. Um, so that would be interesting. But I just see Lily as a higher contender only because I feel like she has a better path forward than him, even though he also has a great path.
I also think that, like with Bryant being at the forefront of this move, like again, it's like, oh, Lily was involved in this. And Ryu on a call kind of maybe he didn't say it exactly in these words, but kind of is implying like, oh, like Lily can't think for herself. Whereas like Bryant, well, Caleb and Ryu have been very apprehensive of Bryant for a very long time now. Like I said
Hmm.
earlier, it's like Bryant has no choice but to stick with the blame because this is the only thing that could really potentially get him to the end, which good on him for recognizing this and not doing the Edward Jeremy thing because that would have been terrible. But I am also on the boat that I think Aaliyah should be third. Not no gap included. I do think
Hmm.
that she now has a solid alliance behind her. If she wants to commit to this, she can defect and maybe make a run for it with a Caleb, maybe a Reed, which would probably we would possibly tag along because her duo is the least threatening. And if they're going to take a shot at that duo, I guess just looking historically, it's constantly being Mikey's name just keeps coming up in to earn. So do you because Caleb dropping is I don't want to say it's inevitable. It was inevitable because like obviously he's done so well all season long, but
It was inevitable based
mm,
off of last round.
yeah. And we still put him at number two just because like he did win the day and does have like we like even like without the idol, I don't think he was going to be going home here. I think that Aaliyah still would have been like, okay, but how about we don't do Caleb? Let's not do
Yeah,
that. And that between that and having the people involved in J1 was enough for him to save the day, barring like a plurality vote taking place, where it's like a 3-2-2-1. Like how the hell was that going to happen? Um,
but also we got our San Juan del Sur with stick to the plan.
Stick to the fucking plan. That's 29, right? Is that or is that
Yeah.
30? Okay, but then look at that. All your fans of Survivor 30s. If you believe that's the best era, then this is the best episode of the Stockwatch. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the Spellbound Survivor Stockwatch. We will be back here at the final seven, which this has been a very interesting, just these past couple votes, like everyone's been blindsided at some point in this game. And now it's to see like who can keep the ball on their side of the court. Everyone have a good night.